It would be great to have someone who could do our work for us, right? Someone to prevent us from making mistakes. Someone to assist with our routine professionally and allow us to devote our time to communicating with our closest people. If only we could get results without wasting our time for nothing. Unfortunately, it's impossible in real life. But wait, Light Forex Social Trading. Spend your time doing what really matters to you.
Hello, good afternoon guys. It's at 3 p.m. CET, 2 p.m. London. Piotr here, meaning that we are going to cover some events during the US or New York session. Let's start quickly with the risk warning, guys. Please bear in mind, trading FX on margin carries a high level of risk. May not be suitable for all investors who can sustain a loss of some or all initial investments. So please do not invest the money you cannot afford to lose. Seek education, gain experience before risking real money. However, past performance doesn't guarantee future results. All right, we are going to focus on the Canadian dollar. Just short update. I've been pound short based on what we discussed around 21.50 weekly open. Been stopped out. Already recovered, partially closed. The shorts we discussed based on the finishing the business as well as hitting bottom of the range from the 27th of August. So it's not the position I took out as a rabbit from the hat, because the next levels we are discussing, also we are discussing this trend line, right? We are discussing this trend line, we are discussing the finishing the business, so plenty of opportunities to recover, and I did. I'm glad I'm get back green for the day. So already with the stop +1, business as usual here. So I'm going to also still focus, we'll try to focus on shorting the DAX, still a little bit higher than where we are, but maybe when the US cash will open, maybe I will switch to S&P. Both S&P spike higher through the pre-market high hitting supply, as well as DAX hitting stops, rejecting. So I'm going to try to focus on maybe on those two, trying to, I don't know, diversify. So that's the update to our morning meetings. Now we are going to focus on Canadian dollar, and let's start overall, right? What's the market expectations, and where we are from the Canadian dollar perspective. We are also going to connect with Michał within a few seconds or few minutes. 1 second. All right. Yeah, so overall, where I have it, Wednesday. Yeah, so overall, market is expecting there are gonna be no change, and here I'm going to have a discussion with Michał. But let me build the introduction ahead of this conversation. It's widely expected, mostly because of the Canadian data, there are gonna be no change, and currently with this a little bit more positive sentiment, mostly based probably on the Bullard comment and light in the tunnel that the Hong Kong protest may end peacefully. So that's what is behind the risk on today. Plus rising oil prices, right, going back above 55. All of this is a great picture ahead of the Bank of Canada rate decision, and that might be, bright picture for the Canadian dollar. And that's probably what we are going to get from Michał, but my view is a little bit different. In contrary, because if we are going to get what market is expecting, it might be boring. We need some kind of a surprise here. Well, yeah, let's leave it for the discussion. Let's leave it for the discussion with Michał. Let me try to connect with him. So we are going to be back together within the next few seconds. Please bear with me, guys. Good afternoon, Mr. Michał. How you doing?
Good afternoon, my friend. Good, very good, I guess. I'm also plus overall today, so and the weather is perfect. I just been outside for a few minutes to get some vitamin of the sun, and yeah.
So you're ready for Bank of Canada, aren't you?
Yes. But I guess it will be something like you said, quite a bit.
Boring.
Yeah. I think because
that's what I knew, that's gonna be your stance. That's why I'm in contrary. I do expect the cut of 25 basis and the weakened Canadian dollar, right? Otherwise, if we agree here, then we can end our conversation. I will go through, right? I have to be in opposition. I have to be in opposition.
It has to be. It is a weak Canadian dollar, right? It's getting weaker and weaker because of this trade tensions, and the Canada exports many of the commodities, including oil. So this global slowdown is affecting them. Will affect them eventually. We saw Tuesday the manufacturing activity slowed. The new jobs coming in companies also. But on Friday, GDP, right, was better than expected. I don't know.
CPI was good as well.
Yes, and you see it. The expectations to cut are, just there are no expectations.
No. Market is 100% in the direction. There are gonna be no change.
Yes, that's right, and I think the Canadian dollar will still continue to weaken because of those trade.
That, right?
Yes.
Even if we are going to get no change, you think the Canadian is going to be weakened?
Yes, because you see latest news about the GDP on Friday also were denied by the market, right? At least at the Usdcad pair. So everything is about the trade war and latest OPEC rising of the output, oil output, right? So that is pressuring the Canadian dollar, and I think that we will see much more after by the end of the year, right? When we will see how the trade war will escalate, and further further readings from the economy, right? So GDP good, manufacturing and jobs weaker, so they are like they were having strong stance to stay to leave untouched the rates. So I think they will preserve them, and they will say as a in the comments that the GDP was growing better than expected, and we now see bigger like much bigger slowdown in economy, and everything is developing. So they will just wait as one of the major banks in the world to further readings of the economy, further development, and then make a decision. Like
so maybe in case of the eventually to see the weaken Canadian dollar. So I do understand that your view is okay, it's unchanged, but then some kind of the dovish comment. I think they will follow FOMC, especially that already FOMC cut, and the expectations for the FOMC meeting in September is another cut. Also, Bullard is backing 50 basis point cut. Looks like he's hunting for the Powell job. Anyway, that's how I see that. Really, it's not I was joking that I have to be in opposition. That's how I see the things. That when the market is in agreement. And something can happen. Usually, something can happen. Something will happen, right? So that's how I see these things today. Anything else from you?
I will be in the contrary by your stance right now. You have to also have in mind that you said about the US, but US all have bigger, higher interest rates, right? So there is a big difference right now, in rates between the Canada and US. So I think they will wait. They will wait for that by the end of the year, and maybe after the. According to this situation, and maybe after the 14th of December, when the rest of the tariffs will activate, we can say, or maybe new ones will come. So I think, that's my situation.
In regards to the tariffs and to the President Trump, there was plenty of rumors. The original plan was to hit the China much stronger than what we finally saw after the conversation with few CEOs in US. Okay, Michał, thank you very much for your inputs. We are going to go through the Canadian charts. Then we will try to check. Indices. Then break, and then Bank of Canada rate decision. Thank you very much, Michał. Have a great Bank of Canada rate decision.
Yes, same to you guys.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, guys, just don't forget that we are going to get the official EEA release tomorrow, right? Because of the long weekend we had in US, the oil related data is gonna to be published tomorrow. Before we will jump and check all Canadian dollar pairs, one more update in relation to the dollar. The primary is going, of course, we are going to watch Usdcad. So it's good to know where we are from the greenback perspective, and dollar is trying to finally defend some levels we discussed earlier this morning. So a quick update right here, right now. All right, so We were discussing, we know where we are from higher time frame perspective. The red line here, that's the beginning of the supply zone based on the monthly chart. So as you can see yesterday, some stop hunt rejection, right? But we were talking about maybe closing the gap in between yesterday close and the Friday close. We didn't count the Monday, right? And the next one was the possibility that maybe we will retest just this breakout of this previous swing high. And that's what we are testing right now, right here, right? The third possibility in case of preparation for further dollar strength is eventually, if we agree that there was a previously the range, 50% of that range, and in that case a little bit lower towards 98, which is in correlation with the bottom of the channel from the weekly chart, blue line, as you can see. So in that case, in case you are dollar bull overall, either we are going to try to defend current levels, but I think more stops might be in place because euro dollar, I'm still waiting for euro dollar at 1060, right? So maybe a little bit, just a bit lower, right? In that case. So we know where we are from the greenback perspective. So let's get back to the platform and let's start with USD-CAD. And the USD-CAD daily chart we were discussing previously in relation to the Canadian dollar to the Canadian GDP in terms of the Canadian dollar, but again Monday, Tuesday we saw stop hunt above this previous what was supposed to work as a supply stop hunt. Right now I think that we might see that it's behind my idea that the Canadian dollar bulls are gonna be disappointed, right? I think we have untested supply much higher towards 34, exactly trying to the peep, it's something around 34, 35, 34, 50, so that would push us a little bit higher from here. That's, to be honest with you, what I expect, right? Of course, again, the positive sentiment because of the bullard, because of the Hong Kong, that's the one thing. And here the commodity currencies are doing well, no doubt about it. US futures jumped higher based on that as well. Oil is back higher as well. So all of this, of course, that's this working as a support for Canadian dollar, and we are not going to discover America by saying that because it's simply visible on the chart here on a daily chart as the whole day today is in favor of Canadian dollar. But the thing is that maybe we are just testing. So let me remove that one and let's use ahead of this breakout. Let's use the levels without the upper shadows. Let's use the bodies, right? So maybe we just testing pre-breakout levels right now, okay? And even more important is that for now we are testing weekly open. Of course, we have to remember that true is that weekly open for both for Canada and US was yesterday, right? And in that case, if you are going to take this into the consideration, so we are below weekly open. Why? Because both Canada and US were on a long holiday on Monday, right? But anyway, trying to go straight, we are around the weekly open. In case of the negative daily close, in case of the really closing on a negative side over the course of the day, we might see some lower levels ahead of the non-farm payrolls, and I'm talking about the here lower levels down towards 32.50, right, and then 32, 31.90. Okay, that's eventually I'm creating the old range. There is attempt to break. In case it's not going to work that way, yeah, we might see even before ahead of the non-farm payrolls the strong move to the to the downside in case market is going to treat it as a false break. Now, taking into the consideration also the price action we've seen this week, we might discuss the possibility of the swing high creation, right, in the middle of the road. So plenty of small details on this daily chart here on Usdcad. So let's switch lower, let's switch to the hourly chart. Let's have a look what we have from intraday perspective, and immediately some of you probably are going to recognize the possibility of the head and shoulder formation here. So I'm going to explain in a second a little bit more about that. The shoulders here are quite big, right? So in that case, we might see still some kind of the rally trying to build the shoulder, right? Something like this, okay? Now, the thing is that here on this hourly chart, you know, it's not the top of the top, right? It's not the top of the top. We have these stops also here visible, still visible when you are working with the zoom. So I'm not gonna be surprised if we, for example, we will try to you know, break the expectations of the possible head and shoulders and move a little bit higher, right? And the real challenge for the bulls here, that's gonna be levels close to 34.50. Now, if you remember, very often or usually not very often, usually we are trying to use as simple tools as possible, right? So if we can agree that some price action here indicates that we were trading some kind of the range, right, like this, more or less. So using the easiest tools we usually use, and after the break, that's what we might see, right, to the upside. So I would be very careful trying to chase the shorts here ahead of the Bank Canada. Hi Katiego, how you doing? Thank you for your question. We are discussing right now the charts. If there are gonna be the realization, if the market will follow the scenario I'm going to visualize for myself, yes, I'm going to execute the trade as usual. But if market is not going to trade my plan, then unfortunately I'm not gonna do anything. So you know, I will try to follow my plan. The same like with cable this morning and after our meeting this morning. So the one cable been stopped out, but the second cable already recovered the losses and still half is in play. So yes, if there is going to be something tradable for me, sure. Okay, Caddy. Okay, I'm Piotr. So yeah. So yes, if there is something tradable, we will make the trade here online, right? So you know, I like because head and shoulders is the most common pattern traders are trying to use. Please listening. I'm talking right now about Usdcad from the perspective that the Canadian dollar will lose the ground. But for a second, within the next few minutes, I'm going to talk Canadian yen from the perspective in case that, you know, we have positive sentiment and we will get, yeah, a little bit hawkish Bank of Canada. Then instead of Usdcad, I might decide to trade Canada yen. Okay. So head and shoulder is the most common pattern traders are trading. Oh yeah, here is head and shoulders, there is head and shoulder, but not everyone knows that in case you have some kind of the megaphone on the right shoulder, the biggest possibility could be here that we are going to break to the upside this head and shoulder, and the head and shoulder is not going to work. And I'm using this type of the setups quite often. That's something I'm going to prepare the separate videos. If you guys remember, yesterday or day before, I've mentioned that the late September, beginning of October, maybe a little bit later, because I'm moving from one place to another place. It's gonna to take some time for me, but I'm going to prepare short meetings where we are going to discuss separately the strategies I know and I'm using. Mostly I'm using the things related to possible demand, possible supply, some kind of the price action around this, but sometimes trying to get back to what I've learned, I don't know, 5 years ago or 7 years ago. We will see. So here I wouldn't be surprised that market is going to invite, after the Bank of Canada, right? Market is going to invite the sellers by trying to show that we are breaking the neckline, right? And then strong move to the upside, trying to create this big 1, 2, 3 with stop count above 34.50, and then eventually trying to settle down, right? So you know, really, I'm very curious what's going to happen post Bank of Canada. If really is going to be as market is expecting, no fireworks off, or if Polos is going to follow what FOMC is doing. So yeah, that's very interesting for me. So in case of USDCAD, I'm going to look for the invitation for sellers, maybe attempt to break 33 right towards 32.90, this latest weakness over here, somewhere here, right? And then sudden move higher. So that's what we are going to watch, and that's what I would like to see from the USD CAD perspective. Now let's switch to Canadian yen, because here is a little bit different story, right? Again, because of Bullard, because of the situation in Hong Kong, we have this positive sentiment started during the Asian hours, been continued over the European session, and looks like we got a chance to see the continuation even during the New York session. Okay, so in case, and if we are going to add that we might see some kind of the hawkish stance from the Bank of Canada, so in that case I think that CAD yen might be the solution, trying to trade alongside of the Canadian dollar, especially that we're trying to fight 80, and in case of the break back above 80, that immediately might open the way higher towards 82, right? So in case of the positive entry, because here it's going to be all about the entry, right? Because we are talking from the bullish perspective. Bulls have to get back and close daily close above 80, right? For the sellers, so for the Canadian dollar bears, is just enough to try to follow this dynamic falling trend line, right? And maybe another attempt to go 80, and that's where the sellers are waiting probably, right? So that's only could be a successful trade in case of this risk on sentiment going to stay as it is, or even maybe better, plus oil continue continue to move higher, as well as hawkish Bank of Canada. I think we are expecting too much. That's why I'm, at least for now, more towards weakened Canadian dollar than to stronger Canadian dollar, right? Because again, let me repeat what is needed here from the Katian perspective. The sentiment has to hold. We have to have a little bit more hawkish Bank of Canada, and the oil prices has to rise, right? So yeah, you know what I think about it's. Well, we will see. Let's switch lower. And here, what I like very much from that eventually long trade perspective, that we took out the latest weakness. What I mean by that? I mean that here, yesterday, that was the yesterday weakness, right? When we saw stop count to the low which been created on 28th of August, right? So either right now, either we are go straight to the upside from here because of these levels, and we are trying to break these levels, or we are going to create upper shadow, and the early close right ahead of the Bank of Canada rate decision is going to be negative, and we will go straight to the downside. But where might be the downside in that case? There is a possibility, because of the yesterday-today price action, there is a possibility that market may want to try eventually create something called over-under, right? So over-under meaning that yesterday first we were trying to hold the low, then it was the break, so the spike to the downside. And once we got back above what we've seen to the left, pullback, holding that level higher. So maybe the pullback is not gonna be that big, and 79.50, that what might hold in case of the reload here on the Canadian dollar versus yen. Okay, so we have two discussed already, USD-CAD and Canadian dollar yen. That's where my primary focus going to be. And because of the US cash open right now, let's have a look what we have from the S&P perspective. There is not big change to what we discussed yesterday. The only thing I want to see is the break of pre-market high. I want to see this break of the pre-market high. It's an intraday, so we have to change the color. I want to see break hitting the yellow supply zone, which is inside this daily green zone, right? And then reverse. So let's have a look from the first 5-minute trading range as usual. So let's create that 5-minute trading range. We are starting the last minute, so I have to speed up a bit. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 1, 2. That's the US cash open. That's the first 5 minutes cash high, at least for now. And that's the first 5-minute cash low, at least for now. Still 30 seconds to go. So looks like I got the chance. Let's get back for a second here. Extend that. And extend that. Okay, let's get back to first 5-minute trading range. Yeah, okay, so been created already. A little bit negative because the first 5 minutes closed below cash open. But what we need to get that high? Let's check if this, because it's very narrow trading range today. So it might be that if someone is expecting fireworks, we might not see them. Alright, so that's the first 5 minute trading range. Let's check if the 3 times higher will do the job. There you go, guys. So looks like my plan from yesterday still may work. So we are going to, and that's gonna be the stop count, right? So everyone who was trying to trade head and shoulders based on the pre-market prices are gonna to be stopped out. So 2,940, 2,945. Let's have a see. Let's check what's going to happen once we are going eventually to reach that level. So I'm going to monitor the S&P price action as well. Okay. Whoa, so we almost ready. You know, when I was saying that maybe from the Canadian dollar perspective, you know, to see Canadian dollar higher, market need to keep the sentiment positive, need to see the rally on the oil prices as well as hawkish Canadian dollar. One hint here. If we are about to hold positive sentiment, why gold is going higher? Maybe we are breaking some correlations, and I don't know. The second thing is Chinese yuan reacting positively in the situation in Hong Kong. So that's what helping to keep risk going on as of now. But still, we are above 714, right? The breakout, we close the gap, continue higher. This move below weekly open is not that great here. Monitoring the developments here. And Usdcad. Someone knows something better. Business as usual. Oil. We can make some changes. That's where oil is supported for now, and that's what was tested an hour ago. Because of this V formation, S&P just retest the cash open, moving lower, where they may want to look for stops. They may even want to try to close the gap. I'm talking about the cash to cash. Cash open to cash close. Yes, yesterday cash close. That wouldn't be surprised at all. CADJPY. All right, guys. So let's have short break. As usual, so bar is open, tea, coffee, mineral water, whatever you want, only non-alcoholic drinks ahead of the Bank of Canada rate decision. The charts are gonna be visible. I'm gonna mute my microphone only. I'll be back right ahead of the Bank of Canada rate decision, guys. Enjoy the break.
It would be great to have someone who could do our work for us, right? Someone to prevent us from making mistakes. Someone to assist with our routine professionally and allow us to devote our time to communicating with our closest people. If only we could get results without wasting our time for nothing. Unfortunately, it's impossible in real life. But wait, light Forex social trading. Spend your time doing what really matters to you.
Hi guys, it's time, it's almost time. Don't forget that there is always a little bit of the delay when we are talking about the YouTube stream because of the YouTube rules. So I will try to put into the chat the decision, but try to check on your side as well. So we have like 20 seconds to go. We are going to see the reaction here on Usdcad. So we are going to know a little bit more. Of course, no change at the beginning may push Usdcad lower, but then all about the statement, how fast algo can read the statement. Looks like there is no surprise. Unchanged 175. So let's switch to CAD here and let's have a look what we are going to get in terms of this possible supply. So 80 is going to be we are testing right now 80. Briefly, let's check. That's the first. If that was the range, so that's the half of the range here. And that's where market trying to make a bit of the turnaround. Well, we might be done. Let's switch to 1 minute. Let's check the market comments. Looks like market didn't get any kind of the signal that might be cut in October, so that's positive. You can get full press release on the Bank of Canada website. So right now it's to be or not to be for Canadian dollar, to be honest with you. In my view, the way I'm thinking about it. Looks like the head and shoulders been fulfilled, so I've been wrong here. So let's see if we can get something like this. Big move to the downside, a little bit of the consolidation, stop hunt, move back and trying to close the gap, because this one, we see this as a candle, most probably that's the gap. So in that case, that would be that way to try to retest the pre-Bank of Canada rate decision levels. And we've seen that many times. So if that's the case, we are in a very great place to try to think about Canadian short. But what I would need to see here, worsen sentiment, but it's not the case right now yet. S&P continue very narrow range trading based on the first 5 minutes. We discussed that. Let's switch for a second and check the cable. As I mentioned, I have a half left here. I can move my stop a little bit lower. Hopefully it's not gonna be for the remaining part, because we are fighting with these levels on cable, and I bet there are some buyers here. That's the weakness. We see the fall from here. So once we are testing, right, I would like to see the close. It's also is a Monday high. So if we are going to get 2 consecutive early close below that level, yeah, we might see lower levels, and in that case, maybe, just maybe, I will decide later on to try to add into the shorts, renew what I've already closed. So on the other hand, GBP CAD is testing also from the intraday perspective very interesting level, or is about to test that level soon. Okay, a little bit of the risk, off right now going on. DAX, maybe DAX did the job. No, they didn't yet. In case you are still risk on biased, this pullback on DAX might be worth to watch the price action around these levels here, 11,975 based on my chart. So based on the round numbers, right, 32 is your selling levels, 32.20. In case you like Canadian dollar, so attempt to close that gap, right? So we know what I'm waiting for in USDCad. Some may look for flag trading. Don't forget we have at 8 p.m. CT, 7 p.m. London, we do have a beige book from the US as well. We have a Bullard one more time. So trying to summarize the picture, because what I mentioned, because of there are no signs that Bank of Canada would follow what we see from other central banks right now in October, meaning looks like, at least for now, there are no signs they want to cut. So in case we are going to have positive sentiment towards end of the day and we are going to get the close above 80 on CAD yen, that might be the way to go from the long side perspective, right? From the short term perspective, I see that that US indices, they looks like they want to close that gap in between yesterday close, cash close, and today's cash open. So short term, yeah, that's why I showed you my visualization. I want to see the stop count. I want to see move back, retest of this current low, and I will try to join attempt to closing the gap. So hopefully we are clear here on the very short term perspective, as well as on a little bit longer, but that depends on where we are at the end of the day. Because if we are going to see, you know, some kind of the first signs of the recession all around the world, actually we see already, then, you know, the Bank of Canada is going to be forced to do something. So that could be the case as well. I'm going after our meeting, I'm going to check in details. At least I'm going to try to check in details the statement from their view in regards to the internal housing market. Come on, cat. That's not the agreement. You are supposed to make the lower low first. Something cooking here. Long way ahead of the before the end of the day for bulls. That was not agreement, guys. Agreement was tiny lower low and then rally. Trying to chase the market here is not worth from the risk reward perspective, so that's the key for me. Because with the scenario I already visualized, with this type of the scenario, right? So that's the low, post BOC low, then lower low, and move back and retest. I exactly know my entry, exactly know my stop, right? So that would be the entry, stop below, okay? And I should have at least 2.5 to 1 or even 3 to 1 in that case, because my target is gonna be pre-Bank of first target, pre-Bank of Canada high. So let's say they are going to make 5-6 pips lower. My entry is going to be here, and the target is gonna be like 60, right? I'm gonna to have like 10 pips stop. Oh, I can have 15, right? Still 4x. And trying to chase the market here, thinking that it's not gonna be lower low. I would have to work with what I have here. Too big for me. Too big for me. We're doing this over under right now. Retest this upper shadow. It's also worth to watch the market behavior towards the London fixing, because Europe is going to say goodbye soon. we've seen that many times, right? That market was going with positive sentiment over the course of the whole day. Market was going toward that way toward the end of the European session, and then when the US guys only left, suddenly sentiment has changed, right? It was both direction. If the whole day was weak, right, Europe was down, and then 1 hour ahead of the US close, suddenly we changed the sentiment. But in case if you are a bear and you wanna at some point take the advantage and of some weakening sentiment, be careful, and you don't wanna stay with your position overnight, especially if you cannot monitor your position. Why? Very simple answer, and it's why we moved higher. One was bullard, of course. The second was the positive situation in Hong Kong, and you know, the most out of the Hong Kong we are going to get during the Asian session. So we might have second part of the US session where the market is trying to switch from risk on to risk off, but then again Asia is going to dictate what is going on during the night hours. So you know, I would be very careful being on the short side and trying to stay overnight. Pound is trying to get back towards 22. It looks like I lost connection for a second. Here is a comment, Fat Williams commenting on Reuters. So I'm placing into the chat. Looks like dollar is weakening based on that comment. More from Williams. So probably euro dollar is going to hit 10.60, my supply level, and then question of what kind of the behavior there is going to be. So Williams is next after Bullard. Looks like those two might fight, and Kashkiri might fight for the Powell's position in case of the Trump is going to be elected again. No, guys, I'm old school guy, right? Meaning that I started when the bad news was the bad news and the good news was the good news, right? So I started well ahead of the financial crisis, and post-financial crisis, you know, there was a quick adoption to the new market conditions, where the big bad news is a very good news because more money is going to be printed, right? But it's about to change. I'm not saying it's like, you know, the changes are going to come by tomorrow. But at some point, you know, I think that already Powell with the cut scared the market a bit. And at some point, market will realize that printing more money not necessarily means good things. Still not lower low on Usdcad. And guys, don't forget the latest correlation. Higher dollar, higher stocks. So now input your answer. Weaker dollar. Unless we are going to break another correlation, right? And I've been long euro today after around the EU PMIs, if you remember, guys. And yeah, +1. And now, wow. So don't forget, guys, tomorrow 8 a.m. CET, 7 a.m. London, we are covering pre-London Open Live. And tomorrow at 2 p.m. CET is a Thursday. We do have this educational live trading room, and we are going to have ADP as well. And don't forget, Friday we cover live non-farm payrolls. And I think Friday might be the most important day. Because if the dollar rejection is real, we are about to see some kind of the you know, attempt to make some outside week or something like this. But I wouldn't bet on that yet. On euro dollar, don't forget we have this weekly demand where the bottom is around 108, as well as post French election gap higher, which hasn't been closed. So and still not lower low on Usdcad. So we are approaching the close of the 30-minute candle, and in that way it doesn't look great, right? But still there is a chance, a little bit of the chance we might see let me make another line for you, right? That's where might be this lower low, right? 3260, and then eventually the rally back. Looks like those dips were bought on the indices. There is still some space for the eventually for the move on the Nasdaq. Sorry, DAX. Sorry. It's an attempt to break this flag, and we might get back inside, so higher height might be in place without lower low. Anyway, guys, there was nothing for me this afternoon. A little bit more action was during the morning hours, where we were covering EU and UK PMIs. So there was a long pound, short pound, short pound. Here, yeah, you know, if they are going to do this scenario, I'm going to trade it. So we know the drill, we know what's the plan, and I'm going to follow that plan. So we'll see, guys. I wanna see one more time. I wanna see break of this post Bank of Canada low with very quick reaction and the move back above that low, then retest of that low and stop below the low we haven't seen yet, right? But we hopefully are going to see. Guys, it was my pleasure to be with you here tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, Friday and non-farm payrolls. Time to recharge the batteries. So don't be trapped later today, and see you tomorrow morning around the London, where we are going to cover the pre-London Open. Have a good rest of the day. Take care and goodbye, guys.